So I guess I'm trying to, um, I guess, have a better understanding of how scholarships work for law school versus undergrad. And undergrad, I pretty much had a system to where I was able to, figure out how this school worked with their scholarship programs and basically have everything covered. And so, with that being said, how do you suggest that we go out and look for scholarships outside, I guess, the law school itself? I know that that can be a good thing depending on the program, and then you also have to make sure that the places that you're like applying to are like credible and all of that. And so I'm just wondering what are some options, I guess, outside of the school that can be utilized.
That's a great question. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole wide world of external scholarships out there that you can apply for through different organizations, different nonprofits, things of that nature. I don't have the link handy at the moment, but I'll find it and I'll include it along with the recording of this video afterwards when it's uploaded to the course platform. But basically, my understanding is that those scholarships aren't nearly as large as the ones you're going to get from the law school itself. So you could think about is a $500 scholarship or a $1,000 scholarship that you apply for separately going to be nearly as impactful as getting $10, $20, $30,000 a year or more knocked off of your law school tuition. I mean, you're right, of course, that every single source of money is valuable, and why not do it all? But I would say put a massive amount of effort into developing the relationships with the admission officers themselves before spending time on the external ones. But there are several external ones out there.
Okay, that gives me a lot of hope. I've already found one scholarship that I posted on the forum. And as I find scholarships, I'll definitely make sure to post them in the forum so that others can see them. And if, it helps someone, I hope it does, then that's totally great. But that's something I will be doing as I look for scholarships, FYI.
No, fantastic. Thanks for that, Jocelyn.
I kind of could figure out what you meant by conditional scholarships, but I never knew about that phenomenon with law schools. So yeah, I did end up following that link that you sent me, and I read more up on it. So I never knew that was a thing that law schools did.
Cool. Well, you want to share a little bit about your understanding and what you learned and how that might benefit others?
Yeah. So at least from what I got from reading it was that a bunch of law schools give conditional scholarships. I mean, there's a long list. I'm assuming it's a good majority of them. And you said that they give them out to a good amount of people, but you have to be within the top 1/3 of the student body or of that class, I think, of 1Ls or 2Ls or 3Ls. And if you don't stay within that top third, then you lose the scholarship essentially. And that's kind of tough then, because it's not really I don't want to say it's not really a scholarship, but it's just a lot harder to call it like a scholarship or to treat it the same as other scholarships, because it's a lot easier for people to not hold on to it, and then therefore they can be behind. And there's a whole bunch of other things that could come up to make it harder to go to law school or more difficult while you're there, is what I've kind of gotten from it. So, I mean, obviously tell me more. Maybe I did not read enough about it, but that's what I got.
No, I think you've generally got the right idea, Jack. And if you can pull that up, that link I gave you, and just throw it in the chat for those who are curious, that'd be helpful. It's on Law School Transparency's site for those who are curious about it, Law School Transparency. But basically, conditional scholarships are different than regular scholarships because conditional scholarships have conditions attached. They have strings attached. And that's some of the fine print as future lawyers you definitely want to be aware of. So if a law school offers you a scholarship, but they say you've got to maintain a certain grade point average, or you've got to be in a certain ranking in class ranking in order to keep the scholarship, then of course you're at risk of losing that scholarship. And everybody tends to think that they're that special snowflake who's going to do well and who's going to be in the top third of the class. But if they offer that scholarship to half the class and they say you got to be in the top third, then a certain percentage, about what, 17%, they're doomed to fail automatically, but nobody thinks they're going to fall within that 17%. And of course, if you've been a star student in high school, in college, you might think you'll be the same in law school, but when you're in law school, you are a different person with different obligations. You may have family obligations, work obligations, personal obligations. Law school can be tough. You might have been used to being the big fish in the small pond. You get to law school, could be a different story. And so you want to treat those conditional scholarships differently and take them with a grain of salt relative to no strings attached scholarships where, of course, the money is essentially guaranteed. So just a big caveat associated with those. I see some folks put information in the chat. I'm just pulling up the chat here. Yeah, thanks for putting that link there, Jack. Definitely useful. Ariel, could you share anything, if you're able, about your experience with the conditional scholarships during college and what that might have looked like?
Yeah, sure. So I guess scholarship isn't really the best word to use. It was really like a conditional loan. So essentially, the conditions were that I had to graduate within 4 years. Granted, I messed up from the beginning because I was a science major, a very hard science major, and that was more or less impossible in my own personal opinion. So it just was kind of designed to set me up for failure. Granted, I needed the student loan, so I just accepted the conditions, even though I knew I'd have to pay back the loan after the fact. And then also, I think I was probably 18, just starting college, didn't know the difference between loans or conditional scholarships or anything like that. But in retrospect, another downside of having this conditional loan was that I couldn't change my major, so I felt trapped within my major, and I didn't really like the degree program I was on toward the latter half of my collegiate career. So it was just really stressful for one reason or another having this loan, because I felt trapped, or I felt like, okay, there's no way I can finish my 4-year degree in 4 years. And so I guess in retrospect, I should have probably just changed my major. I think that would have turned out better for the long run, but having that loan definitely added an additional layer of stress that I didn't think I would have had. It also added stress just to being in college, adjusting to that, having a hard degree, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, that was basically my experience, and I don't think I would do it again.
Thanks for sharing that, Ariel. I think it's incredibly valuable for others to benefit from what you've experienced here. Of course, the college context is a little bit different from the law school context, but either way, those conditions are fixed. And once you sign, you're essentially locked into them. And especially with law school, it's not very easy to transfer or to change midway through. So I wouldn't assume that you'll automatically be able to transfer. And this is a negotiation leverage point when schools are trying to get you to attend them over someone else. You can say, I want the conditions removed. I want the conditions reduced. And rather than a loan, you may want the scholarship outright, or instead of being in the top third of the class, maybe the top half, or instead of only for 1 year, maybe for all 3 years. There are all different things you can play with there to make the terms more beneficial to yourself. So don't be afraid to go back and forth and negotiate with them. And don't be afraid to reach out to me or others for support on this. The schools are, you're heavily outmatched against law schools. They hold a lot of the cards in terms of they know that they have the data, but they actually need you more than you need them. So they don't tell you how many people they're offering that scholarship to. Otherwise, you might view it very differently. But they do need you more than you need them, because you don't have to choose their school. You could choose a different school. You could choose not to go altogether, but they need bodies and seats. They need tuition dollars. And so they will move a lot more than you might think in order to get you to choose them in the end. And so I would aim, first and foremost, get those conditions removed.